Bull Camper in the right place at the right time.
Joe Rose, touchdown Miami!
Well, Joe, the hits just keep coming for Out the Pasture, man. We've had a lot of good guests, and
one of my favorite guys in the NFL through the years.
So I got to give him the due credit. 68 years old, right in our wheelhouse, and I got to give him the Salvatore Anthony Nicholas Paolantonio.
Oh, you went the whole name.
I think he's Italian. I'm not sure. But I think he's got a little Italian blood in him. 68 years old. one of the great broadcasters, and I'll tell you what, you talk about a guy there's been a lifer in this kind of thing. You know, a lot of people have come and gone, and Sal is always there each and every week. You can call him Sal Paolantonio. We'll call him Sal Pal. Sal, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, guys. It's so great to be on the show with you. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm just looking forward to this NFL season. This is going to be a really interesting, fascinating year.
Yeah, a lot of storylines, a lot of, and it's funny. So before we get to that, I just want to give you a thank you, and I just want to let people know that you served our country, and you served our country proudly. United States Navy from 79 to 83, Service Warfare Officer, awarded the United Nations National Medal, and for your service to our country, Sal, wholeheartedly.
Yes,
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
Hey, it was an honor to serve, and I know there's a lot of people out there right now serving in forward areas, and they got their families at home, their children, their spouses, and everybody involved in the military, especially their families, makes a sacrifice every day. So we honor them.
Sal, I got to tell you your story from the military. I know you got into politics, and then this doesn't happen very often. People at ESPN this long, starting back at 1995 and still going strong through everything, all the changes that we've seen in the sports network and everything else. And you're a survivor, and not only a survivor, but a survivor in one tough market known as Philadelphia.
Well, I got really lucky. I had really good people to work for at ESPN at the very start. They were former newspaper people, and they understood what I could bring to the table. I remember when I got hired, they said, "You're a reporter. We can't teach that, but we can teach you to be on TV." So it worked out pretty well. As you can see, I'm going next year, be year 30. Hopefully I'll make it to the actual 30th anniversary. We'll see. You never know in this business. Talk a little bit about
that Philly experience here. You had a lot of good Jaworski back there. You had a bunch of guys out there in that Philadelphia market, whether it's baseball, basketball, hockey, football. Yeah. I mean, they're passionate, as passionate as anywhere in the country. How's your experience been in that Philadelphia market all as long as you've been there?
Well, it's a super tough market. There's no question about it, especially on the sports landscape. But I really got my training covering city politics. I covered Frank Rizzo's last two campaigns for mayor in 1987 and 1991. They were historic campaigns. Obviously, there were a lot of tensions going on in the city at that time. And I wrote his biography that came out in 1993 called The Last Big Man in Big City America. It was made into a stage play at the Theater of the Arts in Philadelphia. So I've been through those city political wars up front, close and personal. And when they put me into sports, I was ready. I wasn't quite ready to go back into the depths of the Eagles locker room and deal with Byron Evans and Seth Joyner and Clyde Simmons and Jerome Brown and Reggie White. That was a different kettle of fish right there. But eventually I figured it out. And a guy who helped me along the way, Bo, was Ron Jaworski. I mean, I can't say enough about the way Ron Jaworski has taught me to be a professional broadcaster. I'm on his board, the Jaws Youth Partnership, and they've raised $7 million for at-risk youth around the Philadelphia region. I'm on the board of that charity. So he has really brought me under his wing. He and his wife, Liz, are going to be honored next month at a big gala as the Community Leaders of the Year. So I've learned a lot from Ron Jaworski on how to, he brought me onto the matchup show. Yep. Listen, that thing that Jim Morris said, you don't know what you don't know, is so true. When you're a reporter, you're first starting out specifically and you're covering the NFL, You don't really understand it until you start to really study tape and study film. And it was Ron Jaworski that brought me into NFL films.
Yep.
Susie Colbert was going on to greener pastures, and they needed a host. And he put me on the show, and I've been on the show now for 23 years. And you really learn about the game when you get to study it like the coaches and the players do.
You know, you can't in that environment. You can't talk about Jaws without the Greg Cosell, right? Who's been kind of his sidekick and kind of worked a lot along with them and become like a kind of a quarterback savant.
Sure, Greg was the executive producer of the show for years, and then we put him on TV.
Yeah,
and boy, was
that's a hard fit right there, my friend.
I would never say that about my teammate, never.
I got to tell you, though, that show, we wake up Sunday morning on the road, hotel, get up first thing after usually out late Saturday night.
No, really?
Still happening, Sal.
At 8:67, Joe? Come on.
It never stops, Sal. I want to let you know we still do it. But I turned it on. It is amazing, the breakdowns of that show, and it's still on. It's just doing great. What's made that show successful and kept it around so much? And I think we got a hardcore group of NFL fans out there.
Well, the NFL Matchup Show is the longest running NFL studio show in television history. And the reason is because it's generated by NFL Films. We do all of the work at NFL Films. The crew is at NFL Films. And all of the camera work and all of the nitty-gritty film and tape study that's done by Greg Cosell really is what brings the show that special formula of, okay, we're going to give you a look at the games that you haven't seen all week. You know, after the Dog and Pony show and the eye candy, you're going to see the games and you're going to see them from the lens of how the coaches. I always like to say, this is the show the players and the coaches watch.
Yep.
Right.
And, we had a really banner year last year. Our ratings were up 19%. We had the largest audience that we've had in 5 years.
Wow.
You know, it's funny because, I people go, hey, did you see this game? Did you see? I said, no, I see one game a week. You know, we're at the stadium. Right. You're at the stadium. You see one game a week. And you've really got to be disciplined to go out and come back from this. Usually I'm, by the time it's Monday, I'm kind of worn out from football. So we watch in the morning to catch up so we can act like we've watched all the games. But you have to watch a good majority of them. But so for me, and I think it's the same for players and coaches. You know, they got that little bit of time in the morning where they can watch it prior to a game and get caught up. And so it's, I'm sure there's some coaches and players that find some tidbits out there that maybe they bring in their back pocket for that Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and I get comments from coaches all the time. Hey, we saw this on your show, and that was really interesting. We had not really seen that before because they can't really watch everything. But the folks at NFL Films watch everything. The eye in the sky does not lie. I think the reason why the audience count is up is because, frankly, gamblers are looking for any edge possible. I mean, that's just the world we live in. You know, I used to think it was all about fantasy football, and it really was for years and years. People who wanted to do their thing in fantasy football would watch our show to get an extra edge. Okay, we know that the Eagles are playing this kind of coverage in the secondary, so the tight end of the Green Bay Packers is going to have a shot to make a difference because there'll be a lot of underneath the routes available. We're showing that to them, and then all of a sudden they're thinking, oh, well, okay. But now it's at a different level. You can have prop bets on every single offensive player. And so I think, honestly, the truth be told, guys, I think gamblers are looking for an edge, and that's why they watch our show.
Yep, that's great. Hey, so you've been here since 1995, as we mentioned before, with ESPN, covering the NFL. What about the explosion in popularity from where it was when you started and where it is today, just at a different level?
You know, I think it's a lot of different things, but I think specifically the explosion really started, I believe, when fantasy football became big. Because every player out there, every fantasy football player became their own general manager, became their own coach, right? And now you can put together the team that you want, the way you want it, within the competition of your own league. So that was explosion number one. It was a $30 billion industry. I think the thing that really pushed the launch button, honestly, has been the interest in gambling. I actually was talking about this to my wife, Lynn, this morning, because there was a news item in the Wall Street Journal where more money is gambled on sports in this country than invested in the stock market.
Wow. You know, the other thing is going back when, the NFL at some point, at first they were trying to resist it and kind of stay away from fantasy. And I think the number may have changed, but the number I first heard was they kind of went in head first when they found out that fantasy football players watch 3 times as many games as those that don't play fantasy football, because they got multiple players on multiple teams. So they're watching, they're putting their eyeballs on more football games every weekend.
Yeah, and I think the last thing is streaming services. You have on-demand access to football 24/7. And while the NBA is involved in it for sure, football has, and to a lesser degree, Major League Baseball. But football has followed the model of international soccer and cricket. I mean, cricket's a huge international sport. One of the most popular fantasy leagues in the world is fantasy cricket. And because of, the number of people in South Asia who are interested in cricket, it's an enormous number. And ESPN has gotten involved in that. So I think streaming on-demand football and growing the game internationally has also helped for sure. I think it's a great thing. I really do.
Sal, you're also a Hall of Fame voter, along with everything else affiliated with the National Football League. We talk a lot on radio, still doing morning radio, and it pops up all the time about how do you go old school numbers with wide receivers and quarterbacks, and now the numbers that these guys are putting up when it comes time. All of a sudden, a guy can play 7 or 8 years, getting 170 targets a season. They're just going to shatter these numbers of whether they're worthy of being Hall of Famers compared to some of the old school guys, even like a Mark Clayton, who put up good numbers and had a great career, but it's not in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I think Mark Clayton should be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm definitely support his candidacy 100% and have. And you got a guy down in Miami, Armando Seguro, who does a great job of making presentations on behalf of the Miami Dolphins. I mean, Jason Taylor, first ballot Hall of Famer, was all about Armando, did a great job. I sat right next to him when he made that presentation and blew everybody out of the water. So I support that. I think it's really important as a voter to have historical perspective. So I agree with you that, because you have these astronomical inflated numbers, it doesn't automatically mean that candidate needs to get into the Hall of Fame. I think sometimes voters fall in love with the numbers. And I always like to say, and I say this in the room, and I don't mind saying it publicly, if you're just going to vote based on numbers, then get an accounting firm to come in here.
Yeah.
And let them get out the adding machine and calculate it up. And then, you don't need people like us who will watch the game and understand the historical perspective of the game. We have Deloitte and Touche counting the votes to make sure it's all copacetic. Yeah. So just bring them in the room and go through the numbers, and then just vote based on the numbers if that's the way you want to do it. Now,
let's dig in the dirt a little bit here now.
Go ahead.
Let's dig in the dirt here a little bit now.
Okay.
The job that you do, you kind of get things that you hear and someone says, or you got a little mole on this one team that gives you a little something, and you got to say, how much of it can I use? How much do I have to hold back? I don't want to bury my source. I don't want to get a coach upset and not give me the time I need. We've all had that kind of stuff going. How do you manage that? And and if you got a couple of tidbits you can throw our way that there were situations that have that you can talk about, we certainly would love to hear it.
Sure. I mean, you have to ask me a question if you're looking for a specific tidbit. I mean, first of all, I work for ESPN, so I probably break it on ESPN. Bo, no, no offense, but I don't give away the milk for free.
I don't blame you.
No, nobody does that, or you won't be in business very long. Certainly not 30 years. But I think I teach reporting to young people every summer. And I always tell them the 3 rules of journalism. 1, ask good questions. 2, take good notes. And 3, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. If your mother says she loves you, check it out. So I'm a big believer in getting the information right before I get it first on the air. I'm a big believer in checking with another source. I'm very much opposed to the idea of putting information out there based on a single unnamed source. Most of the time, those single unnamed sources have specific agendas, a specific message they want to get out, and I'm not in the business of using myself as a conduit for that. So I ask people to talk to me on the record. If you see some of my reports on Sunday mornings, I will say, I just got a text from Nick Sirianni. I just got a text from Robert Saleh. And I will read the text. I want on-the-record stuff from people. I'm not in the business of predicting or conjecturing about injury status and all that. I get on TV on Sunday morning, and when people see me, they know the stuff's going to be on the record and accurate.
It's funny you said that because there's a real push all over. I see guys ripping each other in the media constantly for going out there from something that they might have got secondhand and going with it like it's fact. And the frustration, especially with the power of social media now. It's made it a lot more difficult for people because there's a lot of bad junk out there right now, Sal.
There is. And this is an odd, funny thing, guys. I'm not on X. I have a very benign Instagram account. So, and one of the things that I teach to reporters is when you go to a stadium in the morning, take your phone and put it down.
Yeah.
Observe what's going on the field between players. You want to find out about a player's leg injury? Watch the warm-up.
Yeah. Right.
Then talk to the trainers and the coaches. Talk to people. If it's on your phone, if it's on X, then you already lost. Somebody's already put it out there. So I'm all about real-time reporting on the field. I guess that's one of the ways that I have survived and made myself unique and different. I don't know. Maybe it's just the hair, the makeup.
Staying in great shape. We've noticed that. And we got to ask because we talk a lot. Yeah. Bo and I trying to stay active. Everybody we have on the show, we talk. You look like you work out a lot, stay active, grandkids, kids. Just talk a little bit about your program and what you do, Sal.
I don't have a specific program or routine, but what I do is I try to eat right for sure, 100%. Yeah. I'm very much into fresh fruit and vegetables. I don't eat very much meat at all. I have a sweet spot. I have ice cream every night. Okay, I'll confess. While I'm watching the ball game, I gotta have some ice cream. But I try to eat right for sure. I have a swimming pool in my backyard. I'm in it 3 times a day when I'm home during the summer, and I play tennis. I never was a golfer. I've been horrible at golf, but I like to play tennis, and tennis is a good way for cardio.
Well, you're barking up the wrong tree right here.
Boy, you're on my plan,
right on
Sal.
Plan right there.
I'm on the same deal. Never got the golf bug. Love tennis.
Yeah, we should go out on the court once in a while, throw the racket at each other.
I'm done throwing it too, Sal. They're too expensive. I don't do it.
So, I just sort of eat right, and but the key is having a partner. My wife and I have been married 45 years. Right. I got 3 great children. They're all married. I got 4 great grandchildren. That having that family atmosphere, everything that you read, and I get AARP magazine. Believe me, I read it all the time. Everything that you read, the happiness comes through having the right partner that can share the responsibilities and the discussions with you, and you can share life with. That's the key.
Sal, so as you go around, what have been your favorite have been your favorite things to cover? I know you've gone through everything, politics. You've done all different types of things, and in the sporting, particularly in football. Where have been your places, your favorite? Where do you go somewhere and you just feel, hey, this is where I really, really like to be? Maybe it's a certain stadium or a certain state or wherever that is. What's your sweet spot?
Well, my favorite thing to cover was Wimbledon, actually. I covered it for 6 years. I really enjoyed it. Before ESPN got the rights to Wimbledon, they sent me and a producer over to sort of, soften the ground to get people used to the idea of ESPN being around. And then they got the rights and they kicked me out. So I did it for a while, and I really, really enjoyed it. But I've covered over 30 Super Bowls. The one that has been the most interesting for me to cover, without a doubt, is this one right here over my left shoulder. The Philadelphia Eagles winning their first and only Super Bowl. When they did it in 2017/18 Super Bowl 52, they did it in dramatic fashion, beating Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and Nick Foles. They're going to retire his number, and he's going to go into the Ring of Honor in Philadelphia on the first Monday night game, the first home game. But you got to understand, I covered the team for 25 years up to that point. And when you cover, I'm not an Eagles fan, and I'm from New York. But when you cover a team, and the guy who delivers your mail cuts your hair, cuts your lawn, the plumber, everybody in your neighborhood, they're all Eagles fans. And it went wrong for so many years. And so they're like, Sal, what are we doing here? What's going on? And you hear it every single day. You get the questions. And you like that. I love the interaction. But when it happened, when they won, the euphoria was so amazing. The outpouring of joy. The parade was bigger than anything, including, I covered the Pope's visit to Philadelphia. It was bigger than the Pope. So it was a big event here. It was fascinating to watch. And they got a statue for Nick Foles. Doug Peterson will always go, never buy a meal in Philadelphia. And I tell you, that to me was the most interesting. And also when the Patriots beat the Rams in the Super Bowl after 9/11, I had a lot of friends that I lost in Cantor Fitzgerald in the South Tower. And when the Patriots won that game and Paul McCartney and Bono sang in New Orleans right after, that was an unbelievable story.
The power of sports, incredible.
Yes.
And Sal, speaking of that, how about the power of having an NFL quarterback that's really good? I mean, everybody's looking for one. They're getting paid. It's exploded, the money. We just saw Tua Tagovailoa, the latest to get his money. You ever think we'd be looking at this kind of money for the quarterback position?
And wide receiver. I mean, now it's become, of course, out of this world, not really relatable to most people. I think the NFL has to worry about that a little bit. But I think here's the big trend that's going on in the league right now, and the reason why you have this funky new kickoff rule. Scoring is down. It's the dirty secret in the NFL. Last year, it was at a 5-year low. So while they're paying quarterbacks a lot of money, they have upheaval at the position. Last year, Joe, 68 different quarterbacks started a game. The year before that, it was 72. This year, you have 16 new offensive coordinators. That's half the NFL has a new offensive coordinator, 17 new defensive coordinators. And by the way, I was on the sideline watching that practice in Tampa. Bo was there. Man, oh man, I think Anthony Weaver has had a tremendous impact on Miami Dolphins personnel on defense. I think I thought of the 4 major units on the field for practice last week in Tampa, it had to be the Miami defense that made the biggest impression on me.
Yeah, he's brought a scheme here that's he's got a lot of multiplicity to it and a lot of movement, and where you can change during a snap count, and I think it's going to be, we lost some pretty good guys there, Van Ginkel and Wilkins, but I think with him is more than made up for it, and I'm looking forward to that too. Hey, let's talk about when I remember when I was doing more stuff for draft and everything, I kind of broke down the NFL draft, and a lot of people have done this, first round in particular. And I think when I was doing it, I kind of figured out that, I took 3 or 4 years out and then went 5 years with these guys. And so the number that came out to me was that 60% of the first round was like average or bust, and 40% were good to great. So that situation. Now I think these teams are so quarterback starved that they're reaching out. I think there was 6 in the first 12 picks in last year's draft, whatever that number was. So that's pushing that number more to the bust side, because look how many teams have we seen over the last dozen years that have reached for that quarterback that has maybe been there for a year, 2 years, and then they're getting shifted around or something. So just your thoughts on the value of the quarterback and teams willing to take a risk for a guy that probably would be normally a third round talent and picking him up in the top 5 at some points.
Yeah, and it comes down to numbers. It's a numbers game. If you have 72 different players starting at quarterback one year, that, we're going through quarterbacks, either poor play or injuries. And so they feel like they need to. I personally think as a team, you should draft a quarterback every year in either round 1, 2, or 3. I think it's very important to do that. And I think the same goes for wide receiver. Wide receiver is a major hit miss at the draft level. So is corner, and of course the number one hit miss is quarterback. I mean, look at that Trevor Lawrence draft. Justin Fields is on a new team. Mac Jones is on a new team. Zach Wilson is on a new team. These guys are fighting for jobs, and they were all top 10 picks.
Right.
And it goes back to the fact that you can't develop quarterbacks if you're changing offensive coordinators that quickly. Yeah. I mean, look at Jalen Hurts here in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, since he's been drafted, since he was named the starting full-time starter, has had 5 different guys in his ear. Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, and now Kellen Moore. 5 different guys calling plays. I mean, can you blame him if he's not always on the same page every week? It's a difficult guy. Football players are creatures of habit, more, and quarterbacks more so. But the nomenclature and how big those playbooks are, it's voluminous, and for them to have to restart every year is tough. It's not easy to do. Not easy to do.
There is no patience in the National Football League whatsoever. Whether you should let your first round quarterback sit for a year, or should he start right away, even if the team and the supporting cast is not very good.
But Joe, I think the one thing about people say, well, quarterbacks should sit for a year and they should learn for it. Depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Right? If you got Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love sits. If you got Jared Stidham, no, Bo Nix starts. If you got Jacoby Brissett, no, Drake May, put him in. Put him in. It's got to happen. I mean, Peyton Manning played because he had to play, and he got the snot knocked out of him for that first year. I believe it was 1 in 15.
Elway, same way.
Yeah, Elway the same way. So it depends on the circumstances. It depends on the personality of the player. Yeah. It depends on, how. Look at Bryce Young last year. Bryce Young should not have started in Carolina, but they had no choice.
Yeah. No. Hey, you mentioned earlier this is going to be your 30th year in the business, and got a lot of listeners out there that are approaching retirement. How do you view the process of what you're doing, and when you think it's going to be time, or you've seen people that maybe go, well, I think that's enough. Enough is enough. And I think Joe and I are kind of in that. We go, hey, how many more years you got? You want to go next year? You want to go another year? And our answer usually is, well, if they're going to pay us, we're going to stick around a little bit. So. Just your thoughts on kind of, being at the downside of the career. Not that you're in your downside of the career, because you still got a lot of life left in it, but just thoughts on people that are approaching that.
Bo, you just uttered the words of wisdom in this business. When they're done with you, they'll let you know. Yeah. They will. They just will. Right. And okay, if they came to me tomorrow and said, go play with your grandkids, I'd be like, okay, I'm good. I'm happy. I've been on TV a lot, been on radio a lot. I've made a lot of friends. Thank God. Let's be healthy and be happy. I'm good to go. So but I do enjoy it a lot. I'll tell you a quick story. It'll be very quick. This past Sunday, I was at my granddaughter's house up in Saratoga Springs, and I dovetailed it with an appearance that I made at a general store called the Fisher Ferry General Store, and they advertised it. 100 people showed up, and I just did a Q&A. And a woman came up to me, a mom, and she handed me a letter. And the letter was from her daughter, who has a bad autoimmune disease and could not be there. And the letter brought me to tears. It talked about the letter, she said, I really wish I could make it, but I love watching you on Fantasy Football Now. Please tell Field Yates and the whole crew that I watch the show and I wish I could have come. Now that was inspiring to me. And I sent the letter to Field, and we both emailed back and forth with this young lady. But those are reasons why you keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. They really are. Not to be, too sentimental about it, but I love the audience. Yeah. I love the job. And ESPN has really opened up a lot of doors for me.
Sal, I think we all agree with that, man. Football and the jobs that we've had, Bo and I have had, have been great. Affiliated with the Miami Dolphins and the National Football League.
We've all had the opportunity that, like 99% of the sports fans would love to have, and people have asked me, hey, how long are you going? I say, well, it's hard to give up, because every Sunday in the fall and in going into the winter, I'm standing down in the field where 80,000 people are sitting there enjoying themselves. Yeah. And I'm right in the middle of it, in that enthusiasm and that excitement and that feel of just being in that arena is very, very hard to replicate. Yeah.
Yeah, the action is the juice. There's no question about it. And the other thing is, when I show up and I know the Dolphins are in town, I see you guys. I get to hang around with my brothers in the press box. Yeah. Where else are you going to get that? I mean, it's a great thing. I mean, you go out and you get to hang out with your friends and talk football and tell people what's going on and interact with. I really love going out to the tailgates and just interacting with people. I want to find out what they're interested in. Yeah. I'm totally humbled and blessed to be in this position. I don't view it as a job. I view it as a responsibility. And the best part about it is going to the press box and seeing your friends, honestly. And that's what, most people, that's why they go to work. They go to work for their colleagues and their friends.
Well, it's true, because he sat with Jimmy Cephalo and I while we were getting ready for the game. We sat there and talked for like 30 minutes, and we had a great time. Sal, you're the best, man.
Hey,
seriously.
Sal, appreciate you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure. And, as always, I look forward to seeing you whenever we cross paths. It's always an enjoyable thing.
Thanks, Sal.
Thank you, guys. Peace.
Good having Sal on with us. I got to say this a little bit more credible than you and I. Right?
I had to put my head down when he started talking about credibility.
A little bit more
like
respect,
this.
but he's been at it a long time, and like I said, look, I know you and I really really like him a lot, and he's one of those guys. When you see him, sometimes you see guys and they want to big time you. And you, whenever you see him, he comes over to you, talks to you, how you doing,
Sal's
what's
great.
going on with him. Yeah, so it was great. And you know what? I was happy to, when kind of doing some research, found out that he was a military guy, went in the Navy, and
politics to sports,
and politics and everything he's done. But the one thing that he mentioned all along is integrity. Integrity with what you do, integrity with what you say, integrity with sources that you get. And make sure that you're right. And, in this day and age now, like he said, when you can get on X or Instagram and throw something out there with no merit to it, it makes a lot of sense.
He said something else, Bo, that I thought we'd never talk about, you and I, and having a partner that you're crazy about that just brings that extra to your life. Yeah. And for him, that's part of his health.
Well, I'm sure his wife, it's a lot easier for her to be good with him. He doesn't do the stupid shit that we do.
Mine will be going so smooth. I can't believe you said that. And you were laughing the other day. We were together about some of the dumb shit that I've done.
Hey, look, I always say a spotted dog's a spotted dog. You can put paint on it, but when the water comes
Why'd
out,
I
it's
even bring that up?
still going to be a spotted dog. That's it. Hey, look, if you like what you're seeing here with us on Out to Pasture, go ahead and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on your favorite podcast streaming platform. We're on iHeart, the iHeart podcast family right now. We're on that. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. So everywhere you want to get it, and we're really, I'm blessed. We're blessed with this because every time I look at it and I go onto one of those things, we got a 5-star rating. I think we're giving them good content and nothing better than what we just gave them here with Sal Paolantonio. And the one thing about you and I is we enjoy listening to everybody that we bring on the show.
No question. Hey, we talk about it. It's different things. We really spread it out nicely, so it's been great.
I appreciate it. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.